And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, Sarah Hanna with us, a master herbalist, a classical homeopath. She is the author of the best-selling book, Moodtopia, Tame Your Moods, De-Stress, and Find Balance Using Herbal Remedies, Aromatherapy, and more. She has done hundreds of television news shows, podcasts, and radio programs across the U.S. and internationally, teaching folks how to safely integrate botanical medicine into their lives. She guest lectures at medical schools. She's a keynote speaker at medical conferences talking about the benefits of botanical medicine. She runs an online herbal school called Moodtopia Academy, and her website is her name, linked up at coasttocoastam.com. Sarah, welcome back. How have you been?
Hi, George. It's so great to speak with you.
You too. And you have been well, I hope?
Yes, doing great here on the East Coast. But I want to tell you that I'm originally an L.A. girl living in a neighborhood very close to Tom. And when the fall would come there, it was like, grab a little sweater, no big deal. But when I moved to the East Coast to go to school, Tom, all of a sudden fall would hit and everything around you became orange. The leaves, they did have some yellow and some reds, but orange was the predominant color. Then I'd go to the local farmer's market because it's the cool thing to do, of course. And there were pumpkins and there were all these squashes. And as an herbalist, I was like, why does the world turn orange in the fall? What can we learn from this? What about the energy that radiates? And how can it heal us and prepare us for the cold and snow that's around the corner?
And I'm in the Midwest right now in St. Louis, Sarah, and the leaves are orange all over the place.
It's just amazing. So when we look at color, what happens is it's a vibrational energy. The light travels into our eyes, into the retinas. The retina is located in the back of our eyes. It's covered with millions of light-sensitive cells called rods and cones. And then when these cells detect this color, it sends messages to our brain, which is unbelievable. Because if you think about the different seasons, we have the winter. If you're in a cold area where it's more white, the sky is more gray. The spring comes, there's all these vibrant, beautiful flowers. And in the fall, everything kind of tempers. We have this energy that's calmer and soothing, and we know that monks wear orange robes when they meditate. And orange can be a very soothing, deep color. And on the flip side of it, flamingo dancers will be wearing these vibrant orange colors. So orange is one of those colors that has a flip side, super calming and meditative, and very invigorating.
I remember back in the 1960s, my dad had a Mercury that was orange. He loved that color.
Amazing. I know, it's so interesting because I was in L.A., and as you know, I have 7 children.
Mm-hmm.
And my neighbor, who's my dear friend, called me up and said, your apartment's a disaster. They're going to paint it. I'm going to watch over it. I was like, you are? Wow, you are like the nicest person. So we were picking all the colors for the rooms, and in my office, she said, what color do you want? And I was like, I don't know. So I ran to a store, and I fell in love with this spiced pumpkin. Now, I was not a big orange fan before this. It's like one of those colors, as a girl, you like pink and then green because I'm an herbalist. And I painted my office orange. And, George, I have to tell you, women to this day and men will comment when they come in my office and go, wow, this is such a gorgeous color. Because orange is so healing, and it vibrates right in the middle of the spectrum. You've got the reds on one side, and then you've got the violets on the other, and the orange is in the middle. So that's why it has both energies.
And orange is the only color that has a food named after it.
There you go. There you go. And so here's a great idea. What I want your listeners to start to think about is how to integrate some more of the color orange into their lives. And I've done these workshops across the country and internationally, and people will send me emails and said, Sarah Hanna, I wasn't even aware of how much orange was going on around me. So the orange fruit is delicious, and the orange essential oil is phenomenal, George. So if you have trouble waking up in the morning, which lots of us do, me included, you can have an essential oil diffuser on a timer. And you can have it go off like 20 minutes before you have to wake up and put some orange essential oil in there. And when you go to open your eyes, you're going to inhale this orange essential oil. It's going to give you more energy. It's going to give you that life and that vitality that you need to force yourself to get out of bed and start your day.
Well, when we're talking about the color orange, is it just because it's the fall? What color would you talk about in the winter or the spring?
Well, the winter is phenomenal because we've got all this white, especially if you have the snow. And we have actually these orange berries that pop out and are available to us. There's actually, see how I'm going back to orange? There's actually
I was going to say, we're back to orange again.
Cape gooseberry, which actually is harvested in the fall, whereas most berries are harvested more in the spring. So spring colors would be our blues and our yellows and our pinks and our fuchsias. And that brings a different energy to us. Now, what's interesting is the food that grows in the spring is more water-soluble. So it's got antioxidants that help heal us, but because we perspire more, these antioxidants that are water-soluble leave our bodies quickly and give us energy. Whereas all the foods we eat in the fall, the pumpkins, the butternut squash, the acorn squash, they have fat-soluble vitamins for our body, antioxidants, and they stay in our bodies longer and help keep us warm.
So the color orange, if people surround themselves with it, what will it do to them?
So it's very interesting because you could literally, like if you're at work and you feel you get exhausted midday, or, you know, you're sitting in front of your screen too much, you could literally take a piece of orange paper and put it on your wall. And what orange emulates is this feeling of excitement, enthusiasm, warmth when it gets cold. And studies show that looking at this color increases oxygen to your brain.
That's amazing.
Yeah, people that are exhausted in front of their computers, if you just look at the color orange, it increases the ability to inhale oxygen and bring it to your brain.
Now, will different colors do different things to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Whites are very cooling. Yellows are inspiring. It gives you that vibrant energy. Purple, we know, is very regal. And when you look at a purple color, it calms you down but helps your self-esteem in a different way than orange.
What does red do to you?
Red is vibrant, it's sexual, it's got this vibrant energy. Blood is red, and remember, blood is the only thing that touches every single organ in our body. Our blood goes from the tips of our toes to the tips of our fingers, our eyelashes, and that's blood. So inside our body, and it's very important in the fall and the spring to circulate your blood because we don't want to get stagnant blood. Whenever you get stagnant energy in your body, you get dis-ease, and we don't want that. So let's jump back to orange. We can't get away from it. Turmeric, and a lot of your guests love turmeric.
I love it too.
Amazing. It's this yellow to orange, vibrant color. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And it increases circulation in our body. So what happens is when fall comes, we tend to not get out as much because we've got to, especially in the Midwest and on the East Coast, you've got to put on a jacket and a sweater. So a lot of us tend to stay home more, whereas in the vibrant colors of spring, we're out and about more. And turmeric will help increase the blood flow in our body. It thins our blood so that we have less likelihood of getting different diseases like different growths and different blood clots. And there's orange turmeric. It's just here for us. You can add it to your food. You can just take turmeric, add it to your chicken. You can add it over your chicken. You can mix it in a salad dressing. And that's a specific orange that's super healing to us.
What does green, the color, do to you?
Green is interesting because, I'm a city girl, and I know a lot of your listeners live out in the gorgeous area. But, here in Brooklyn, it gets very gray and very dark. And whenever we drive upstate and all of a sudden you see green, your brain just kind of recalibrates itself, because green is very grounding and helps you understand what you need to do in life.
And what about plaids? I have a funny story about this.
Funny because my son just bought some plaid shirts today, so I can't really answer that question because I'm always looking at what plants do. And George, I haven't seen a plaid plant ever in my life. But tell me your story.
When I was a news director in St. Louis, I dictated to my sports guys what to wear, certain colors, and I told them, do not wear plaids on the air, because to people, you don't have credibility wearing a plaid jacket. And so that's what we did. And I think I was right, Sarah.
Very interesting. It's probably a little confusing for your eye, too, because, again, these colors are on a vibrational energy, and it's probably your eyes don't really know exactly where to look when you first...
And it was worse for television because it had that bleeding effect when you were on TV.
I do a lot of TV segments across the U.S., and your listeners can view them on my website, sarahhana.com, and I always try to pick a color that's with the season, and I make it one color because it's easier to view and listen to the person. Very interesting. In my book, Moodtopia, I have a whole chapter on color, and there are color specialists, especially news anchors, and you'll sit with a person, and for women, you have no makeup on, and for men, you just kind of like have to have your hair color available so the color specialist can see what it really is. And they just throw colors over you. And so many people that are on television do this. And they will find the colors that vibrate with who you are. And it's very fascinating.
Why do you recommend that people eat the color of the season, like orange foods?
So, again, I spoke before about how it's got fat-soluble carotenoids and antioxidants. So let's talk about the pumpkin. Pumpkin is an amazing food. Everybody wants to have these superfoods that are these exotic foods from outside the U.S., and I'm like, no, look at what's growing around you. So the flesh of the pumpkin has a lot of fiber in it, which helps keep our system going. It helps keep us full in the winter as the weather changes. The seeds are protein. And pumpkin oil is one of the most fascinating oils, and I'm still kind of surprised at why it's not so popular in America yet. So pumpkin oil, just putting it over your salad, helps lower cholesterol. It can help reduce symptoms of menopausal symptoms like hot flashes and mood swings. It helps with bladder health, lowers blood pressure, and there are some interesting studies that show that if you massage your head with pumpkin oil, now it's not going to fix the DNA genetics, but it can help restore some hair growth. So I'm always surprised why it's not the number one on our shelves. You can also add a little bit of pumpkin oil to your moisturizer and massage it into your skin. And I'm telling you, it reduces wrinkles and makes your skin glow. It's like a magical oil, pumpkin oil.
Are you also saying that orange, of all the colors, is the best?
They all have their place. What I'm sharing is when I first went to become a master herbalist, one of the things they said was if you want to heal a person, see what grows around you. And I've told you this before because here I was in Brooklyn, New York, in an apartment with a bunch of little kids, and I looked out my window and I saw cars, concrete, I saw fire escapes, I saw bricks. I was like, really? That's what's going to heal people? So I went over to my teacher. I said, sorry. So she handed me a Peterson guide. She said, take a walk around your neighborhood. And I found 10 medicinal plants growing through the cracks of the concrete, under abandoned cars, George, and growing in between the bricks. And I was sold. I was amazed. It says in Psalms or Tehillim that God gives grass for the cattle and herbs for the service of man. And the word there is service. And it really took me back because I was like, wow, it's all here for us. We just have to open our eyes. So when I look at fall, now going into winter, I see that orange is predominant, and that's why I'm a little obsessed with it now, and especially because Thanksgiving is, it's a couple days away here, George, and if you look at your Thanksgiving table, Thanksgiving, we're supposed to give thanks to our family members, our loved ones, our Creator, our harvest, right? It's a time where we're supposed to really become deep and not superficial and be thankful. And what's there to help us be thankful? Pumpkin pie, carrots, butternut squash, sweet potatoes, and when we cook our turkey in the oven, you put a little honey on it, and you have this gorgeous orange glow. So I feel that this is what all of us need right now to rebalance us in this crazy world of chaos right now.
And I will admit, Sarah, that when the leaves change and they all start turning orange, your mood changes. You begin to realize the holidays are near, and it's a different feeling, isn't it?
It's a major different feeling. And as I said in the beginning, being an LA girl, I never really got it until I came to the East Coast and saw the transition. So when the leaves fall, everyone's so quick to, rake them up and get them out of the way. But the truth is that the leaves falling have a medicinal benefit for the trees. So it composts the soil, and it actually makes the soil better if you want to plant a garden in the spring. The soil, if it's had leaves over it, there's a lot of carotenoids, which is that yellow-orange pigment. And besides the fact that we as human beings need it, our soil needs it also. So there's a lot of gardeners that have really started a movement of don't rake your leaves. Let them decompose into the soil, and it helps the trees stay healthy in the winter. Fascinating, isn't it?
That's interesting because I see people in my neighborhood blowing leaves all over the place.
Yep. Well, in certain areas, and especially around the trees, because remember, the trees appear to lay dormant. We have our fall, and then we have our colder winter. But really what happens is that the energy of the tree is going into the roots, and the roots is preparing the tree for spring. Because if you think about spring, like on a Monday there's not flowers and leaves, and by Wednesday there can be flowers and leaves. As an herbalist, because I'm always looking at what's going on around me, the flowers bloom so quickly, and that's because all winter the tree is programmed to prepare itself for that spring, and our fall leaves are there to also help our trees stay healthy.
When we come back in just a moment, we're going to talk with Sarah about herbs and the color orange again, and it's fascinating. It's almost like there's a science behind it. Her website is linked up at coasttocoastam.com, where you can find out more about the things she does, including her herbal school called Moodtopia Academy, and her book is called Moodtopia: Tame Your Moods, De-Stress, and Find Balance Using Herbal Remedies, Aromatherapy, and more. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, along with Sarah Hanna, as we talk about colors, specifically orange this time of year. What about herbs and essential oils that are also orange? Do you need to see the color or just simply feel it?
It's always great to see it, and to consume it in your body is phenomenal. So we all know about the flowers marigold. They're these beautiful orange little flowers. You actually plant them around tomatoes in the spring so they keep bugs away. But marigolds are a phenomenal tea. What happens is the marigolds in the spring and summer take in all the light from the sun. And when you dry the petals, we can have this as a tea throughout the entire fall and winter. Calendula, they make it into creams and salves. If you burn yourself, a calendula cream helps. If you cut yourself, it helps. It's a skin healer, and on the inside, it reduces inflammation in our digestive system. So drinking calendula tea throughout the fall and winter is going to help soothe our stomachs if we have any indigestion. And cinnamon, which is more to the orange-red color, is phenomenal because it helps lower cholesterol. So anybody that's struggling, cholesterol and high blood pressure, but specifically high blood pressure, anybody that's on the border of, like I don't quite need medicine, but I really have to watch it, especially when we don't exercise as much when the weather changes, sprinkling cinnamon in your tea, over your pancakes, over your oatmeal can really help lower and reduce high blood pressure, which is amazing.
Is this well known around the planet, Sarah?
It is, because it's very interesting. We do a lot of research here in America, but when you travel around the world, because when I was in herbal school and homeopathic school, I was honored to have teachers from all over the globe come into New York and teach. And what's very fascinating to me is that the herbs are used in a similar fashion and for similar diseases all over the world, even before we had these labs, these chemistry labs, and this research going on. So yes, this is used all over the world. Turmeric is, marigolds are, cinnamon, orange peel, phenomenal in tea. It's got this orange taste to it, helps with digestion, and has all the antioxidants from the peel. And the peel is even healthier than the fruit inside. So we use a lot of orange peel in different herbal mixtures.
Interesting take. Now, what about colors? We were talking about my situation with what I had my sports people wear. But, generally, if you wear something orangey, what does that do to you?
So what it does, it can bring warmth into your body, and it can help stimulate. And I'll tell you something. When you're looking in the mirror, let's say it's a dark, gloomy day, and it's cold outside, and the weather's really changing. You're having a black coat, a black shirt. We all like to wear these darker colors. If you just throw on an orange scarf and look in the mirror, it brings energy to your eyes and energy to your brain. And orange is also the sacral chakra. It's the color of one of our chakras that's below our belly button. And that's where the womb is, and that's where life begins. So when you wear orange and you bring it into your life, it stimulates this chakra, which does two things. It creates life, and it brings this childish energy back into our bodies. So sometimes we take life a little too seriously, and we have to. These are crazy, crazy times, George.
They are.
So the question is, how do we stay sane and centered during times of chaos? Now, I want to explain to your listeners that herbalists, we don't feel like we're healers. You have a lot of healers on your show, energy healers, and people that see chakra, that see auras, and they can feel your energy. So as an herbalist, my job is to educate people about the plants, botanical, whether it's mushrooms, roots, seeds, and leaves, and I need to teach people how to bring it into their lives. So these colors and plants are healing them, not me, and that's a very important I want to distinguish that for your listeners out there. So when you work with an herbalist, we're going to empower you to learn how to bring these plants into your life. So if you're getting a cold or a sore throat, or you wake up with constipation or having nightmares, you'll know which plants to incorporate into your life.
What if you wear some jewelry that is orange? What does that do for you?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love adding stones, and of course throughout the year all different color stones. But now that I'm a little obsessed, as you've noticed, with orange, so you can get a coral ring, you can wear coral earrings, and you can even take an orange stone and literally tape it to your body. So I have a lot of people that are going through divorces, or they've lost a loved one or a child, or they've lost a job, and they really feel the pain in their heart. And you can literally take a stone and just tape it over your heart, and it's going to help you handle stress. So coral in itself helps with nightmares. If when you go to sleep you're nervous and scared, coral, even having the stone next to your bed, can help reduce those nightmares. It can help you feel more balanced. And the stone I love is citron, and that releases negative energy and helps with fears and phobias. So if you're fearful and you've got a job interview, you can literally take one or two citron stones, tape it to your body, or you can even put it in the pocket of your jacket, because these stones also radiate energy. And then because we're energetic beings, I mean, you talk about this all the time, we all vibrate energy. So orange stones are going to vibrate in a way that gives us self-confidence and helps take away the fears that we have.
How did you discover this, Sarah?
The orange or the stones or the herbs?
All of the above.
So when I became a mom, and as you heard in the beginning, I'm a mom of 7. I have 5 boys and 2 girls. I really wanted to treat my kids naturally, George. I mean, I'm not against getting an X-ray, as we've spoken about, if you break your leg. A cast is a phenomenal thing. And certain surgeries are beyond amazing. But when it comes to daily life, American medicine does not shine in preventative. So they're waiting for your child to have an ear infection. Western doctors are waiting for your child to get strep throat, and then they're ready to treat you. And I started looking at botanical medicine for my children because I was like, well, I want to stop the stuffy nose before it becomes an ear infection. So it's the same thing as adults. Like when you get that first little bit of a headache, we don't need to wait until it becomes a migraine and then take the migraine medicine. We want herbs that you can take as symptoms begin, and especially as the fall going into winter. Everyone should be drinking herbal teas every day because flu season is right around the corner. And you and I know that. We talked about that last time, that, flus are just part of our lives. They're around all the time. So if everyone's going to get a flu once a year or a cold a couple times a year, you don't have to end up in bed. You can take herbs right at the beginning to help build your immune system. And that's really what I want to share with people. And I want to tell you, George, for your listeners, I made a handout that they can get on my website, and they can either upload it to their computer, they can print it and put it on the refrigerator, and it talks about healing plants, healing essential oils, and things that you can do in the spring.
What is the best?
We're in the fall. Sorry about that. We're in the fall.
Yes, we are. What's the best plant to keep around you?
To drink or to have in your house to clean the air?
Just to have around you.
So philodendron is a plant that it's almost impossible to kill, by the way. You don't have to have a green thumb. And what happens when we bring plants into our homes, especially in the fall and the winter, what it does is it creates an ecosystem around itself, and it cleans the air. So one of the best ways to clean indoor air, especially as we turn on the heat now and we're not opening our windows as much, is to have plants. So I like philodendron, I like rubber plant, and I love spider plants. And the research that's done at NASA shows that nothing cleans the air better than plants.
How quickly do you think, Sarah, if somebody applied many of the things that you're talking about tonight, how quickly would they see results?
It's such a hard question because we're all such complicated beings, and there is the mind-body connection. So if we're going through something emotionally, it can affect us physically. And sometimes we have something physical going on and we're not even aware of the emotional component. But if I have a child, a teenager, an adult that starts to get a cold, and they take an herb like echinacea or elderberry, which we've discussed, within 24 hours you're going to feel better. If you feel like you have fall allergies and your nose is stuffy and you're getting a sinus infection, you can take an herb called freeze-dried nettles, and I have all this on my website for your listeners. It acts as a natural antihistamine, and you don't need that stuffy nose to go into a sinus infection. So when you take an herb like freeze-dried nettles, you'll feel it within 20 minutes because it will start to clear your nasal passages.
We're talking with Sarah Hanna. We will take calls with her next hour here. If you have a story about orange, jump aboard. It's interesting that you talk about the color orange. It's something that we notice all the time in the fall, but we're really not mentally aware of it until you brought this up.
Right. And, that's why I really wanted to present this to your audience because, it's kind of like if you're deciding to buy a Toyota car, right? And you're looking it up online. And then you go outside, you're like, I never realized there's so many Toyota cars around, right?
They pop up all over the place. Yeah.
When we bring it to our attention, it's going to jump out at you. And I know your listeners, when they take a walk or go to the parking lot or go to the store, orange is going to start jumping out to them. And the leaves, I want people to be aware of it. I mean, we know across the U.S. now we've already had some snowstorms. I'm sorry, folks, because you're already there. But even this time of the year with a snowstorm, you're still going to find those orange leaves, and they're so healing. George, I wanted to tell you something about what I discovered just recently. I didn't know it existed, and I think your listeners are going to love it. There's something called a sunset alarm clock. Have you heard of it, George?
I have not.
Okay. So what it is, and they're not very expensive at all, what they are is when you set your alarm and you go to lay down, the clock has this sunset color, and as you lay down, over the next 20 minutes, you can set it, it will be in your eyes and around you, the sun going down. Because remember, we used to go to sleep with the sunset, right? Now we don't anymore. And in the morning, when your alarm clock goes off, it has the sunrise. So it's such an amazing way to get our rhythm back in with the color orange and the sunrise and the sunset. And, George, you have to look them up. They're very inexpensive, and they're just such a wonderful tool if you struggle with, A, falling asleep, and B, waking up on time. Amazing.
And what are they called? Sunset?
They're called sunset alarm clocks.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. And it's this orange glow. And I just did a workshop in Mootopia Academy with a sleep specialist because everyone's struggling with stress. Whenever the world goes crazy, the number one call I get is, Sarah Khan, I can't fall asleep. I'm like, well, who can? And this sleep specialist was saying that she sees with kids and adults that when you put a sunset alarm clock in the room, it helps remarkably. I was very impressed with it.
How did you come up with the name Mootopia for your book?
So, I was thinking when I wanted to write my first book, and my second book is going to be published soon. I'm so excited. I'm an herbalist. Should I talk about allergies, urinary tract infections, constipation, eczema? There's so many topics. And what I found in my office was when someone came in with a physical ailment, we always had to jump to the emotions because there's always that mind-body connection. So I realized that so many Americans and around the world are on psychotropic drugs. And they work, George. If they work for your listeners, I'm the happiest thing. But a lot of people don't quite need psychotropic drugs. They don't need antidepressants. But some days they're just feeling down, scared, overwhelmed. And plants really shine in this area. So I wrote the book Mootopia to expose people to the idea that plant-based medicine can help them when they're going through difficult times, and especially our teenagers now. I mean, George, the crime is up. People are so violent these days.
Oh, it's huge.
Huge. And these teenagers don't, unfortunately, have these tools. And, drinking a cup of skullcap, which we've spoken about in the past, helps with anxiety and stress. An herb called motherwort helps if you're hormonally moody, and these teenagers are hormonally moody. And I feel that if we introduce these to all these teenagers and young adults that are struggling, I think we could have a little bit more of a peaceful environment, which is the goal of an herbalist, is to bring peace and calm to our bodies, our minds, and the world.
And it's all natural.
It grows right around you. I mean, we've spoken in the past about an herbal tincture, so we have we have many ways to take herbs. One way is in tea form.
Right.
And remember the Japanese tea ceremony. Women spent years learning it because the tea was so important, and it was such a glorified, important thing to bring into your lives. But we can take herbs in tea form. We can take them in tincture. And a tincture, George, is when you take an herb, you put it in a glass jar, you pour grain alcohol over it, you let it sit for 6 weeks, you strain it, and you have a medicine, George, that has a 10-year shelf life. And that is not what pharmaceutical companies want you to know.
No, that's true. Sarah, we're going to take a break. We're coming back for taking calls with you next.